It's the first day of spring. Here comes the sun. You know, some people don't really understand what the first day of spring means. I mean, not only is it, you know, a time when we look forward to plants growing and so on, but literally until this point in the rotation around the sun, the earth has been tipped, the northern hemisphere has been tipped away from the sun. And today is the day on which the sun crosses the equator and starts heading back in our direction. It's the day when the amount of daylight and darkness are equal, and we end up moving from here to having longer days, being able to work later at night, all kinds of great stuff that allows you to get more done on the farm. Right now I'm going to run out to the mailbox and pick up some new seeds that came in today, I hope, and also pick up some of the new tools we bought. So stay with us. We're going to have a great day on the farm this first day of spring. It's always exciting this time of the year because, you know, we're getting seed orders and we're getting all kinds of supplies brought to the farm. Even though we got a lot of stuff already growing in the high tunnel, you know, this is the time of the year when new things arrive, and just in time for what we're getting ready to do right now. We've got some new seeds and things that have shown up, and guess what came today? You're going to get a kick out of this. This is absolutely amazing. Our turmeric. That's right, our turmeric. Oh my goodness, we're going to have just the most amazing permanent beds of turmeric and ginger this year. I mean, we've got these beds, and I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to amend them today and get them ready for planting. Turmeric and ginger. Never raised it before. This ought to be kind of fun. So a couple months ago, I found a lady in Versailles, Kentucky, who had a huge new compost business. And her compost had been tested by the University of Kentucky. It was pathogen-free, tested for great nutrients. So we bought, we bought 20 tons of, we bought 2 dump truck loads, and each one of them held 10 tons. So I don't know how much it actually weighed, but the volume was there. And we've got more coming, but today we're going to take the compost and build up the raised beds into which the turmeric and the ginger is going to get planted. So what I've decided to do is I've got 4 outside beds that I have planted every year. And one of the things I've been thinking about is, how can I use those so I don't have to replant them every year and put something new in them? So we're going to turn them into permanent beds. One bed's going to be turmeric, the other's going to be ginger, another's going to be asparagus, the other is horseradish. Those are perennial crops. I don't have to turn them, but I just have to tend to them all summer long, and they come back. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the perfect place for the turmeric. It's down on the end, and with all this new compost, we're going to turn the bed over and get it looking ready for the turmeric to be planted that just came in the mail today. So now that we've turned the bed over and given it a little air, and we've added our compost. Turmeric is really easy to plant. These are called rhizomes, and each one of them turns into an entire turmeric plant with a huge root system, and you harvest the roots. I'm told you can harvest the roots any time of the year. I'll probably let them go dormant and harvest my first turmeric this fall. I'm just going to spread these rhizomes out. There's really no, as I can tell, I've not been told there's any special spacing that's required. So I'm just going to put what I've got, all of it, in this bed. If it looks like it's a little bit too crowded, I'll come back and thin it. After I got it all pushed down, just going to give it a light dose of organic fertilizer just to give it a little bit more. The compost is good and it tested really good for nitrogen, but I think that I want to give this new crop the advantage of everything I can do to try and help it get in and get it established rather than struggling later when I'm wondering what's wrong with it. So just a light dose of organic fertilizer across the whole bed. We'll water it in and we'll be good to go. Okay, so those two beds are done. At least they've got the compost in them. The far bed has been planted with the turmeric. The second bed is going to be planted with ginger. I thought there was ginger in the package today. It's not going to be here until next week. That's okay. At least we get the bed ready on a nice bright day. We've got two more beds to do. This one here is going to be asparagus. It's going to be the permanent bed for asparagus. And that one there is already planted with horseradish, which of course is an invasive plant that will take over unless you contain it. We're going to try to contain it in that bed. So far so good. We harvested last year, got a great tasting horseradish out of it. So now we've got our outside beds planned for the year, and we're ahead of the game. We'll finish up these other two and then we'll go on to the next chore. I sent Barry out to get the other load of compost. I came in to check on the greenhouse. The temperature in here right now is almost 80 degrees. We've got the curtains up and we've got the doors open, so there's plenty of ventilation. Down along the ground, it's not going to be that warm. The lettuce is doing good. The Salanova seed, direct seeded into that bed, just isn't doing so good. We've even had it under that low tunnel. Just not really happy with the way that's turned out. But boy, the greens and the kale, oh my goodness, they're doing wonderful. And today, if we can get to it before dark, I'm going to go ahead and plant another couple of beds full of greens, kale, and lettuce so that we're ready to harvest as the season goes on. Another thing I need to do today is take my soil samples up to be tested. You know, I guess a lot of people just assume that dirt is dirt, but it's not. I mean, it's a living, breathing medium. It has a lot of components to it that need to be watched, and the things that are low need to be amended, and the things that are doing well need to be left alone, and the things that are high, sometimes you need to counteract those. But what we've got behind me here is we've got 12 patches of garden space this year. We've dug soil up out of each one of them and marked them. We'll now take them up to the feed store and drop them off for the purpose of having soil samples done so we know just what our garden needs so that we don't give it too much or too little. Taking a soil sample isn't really that difficult. All we do is we come out to the garden and we find a spot like this, and we dig a hole just about a spade deep. You can dig all the way down to a full long-handled shovel deep, but since you're only going to really be planting and using the top part of the soil, and because this year we're going to be doing very shallow tillage, my plan was to not go down too far and dig into things that might not be as fertile as the top, particularly since, as you can see behind us, we've got a cover crop. We're going to have a little bit of green manure, they call it. The wheat, when it gets turned under, will actually provide organic material and some nutrients to the soil. So taking the soil in the condition that we find it, testing the part of the soil that's going to be planted in, this year makes more sense to us than digging all the way down to the bottom of where the plow might go, since we're not going to be doing that kind of deep tillage. So a soil sample, we went around, took 3 samples from each patch. That means that we have an average across the patch in case there's some variations. And then we have each patch tested separately, and each of those individual bags will come back with a report on what they need. So taking care of your soil is #1 factor on getting a good garden or a market garden or growing anything. Really, the first thing you need to grow is your soil. Last spring, I talked with you guys about solarizing your ground. And just today, when I went up to the feed store to pick up some supplies and drop off our soil samples, the manager of the feed store and I got to talking about rotating gardens and how do you control disease and weed pressure. And last year when we were doing our raised beds, the same ones that I just did new compost in just today, we talked about solarizing the ground, and that is allowing the ground to age under plastic that will cook out the weed seeds and will, in some instances, according to many sources, will destroy pathogens in the soil, diseases such as fusarium and verticillium. There are a couple of different ways to do that. Some people do it with clear plastic. I think clear plastic is better for getting the weeds to germinate and then destroying them after they've germinated. We chose to use black plastic. Now, I will agree with you that there are some people who swear by silage tarps. They're more expensive. There are people who will tell you that you've got to have a certain kind of plastic, else you leach plastic into the ground. That might be true. I haven't really seen any verifiable science on it. But we're using black 6-meal plastic. And I just want to show you what has happened here in my garden. It really is kind of unbelievable. We decided last year, kind of in the middle of the season, to take this black plastic and spread it over, not quite a quarter acre, about a half of a quarter acre, and let it go. And the idea was to kill the pathogens in the soil and to kill off weeds and see what would happen to the soil itself. Wait till you see what the soil looks like. We pulled the plastic back yesterday. It was a little bit damp underneath. It was certainly not muddy. The soil on top, to me, looks like you actually might be able to work it a little bit. I think I could plant in it, but it is so aerated and friable. It's unbelievable. Here's the soil, here's the plastic that we pulled back, had it held down with sandbags. I want to show you some things that you'll see here that I hope you'll find to be pretty interesting. First of all, this soil was completely covered in plastic. Now it could have been expected to be, I guess, matted down and a muddy mess. But look at the top. Look at how loose it is. And you know what else I see in here? I see wormholes. See, the worms have been working underneath this plastic and kind of tilling the soil for me. I actually think, and I'll get down here with my hand and show you what that's like. I actually think that this soil, now this hasn't been touched. We haven't tilled this, we haven't done anything to it since last June. I mean, everything else on the farm is soaking wet. This soil, the top, look at the top of this. I mean, this is, look at this. And if what they say is right, the pathogens are gone. Now, we're expecting rain tonight and tomorrow. And I don't think I really want to let this soil get beat down with the rain, although what I'd like to do, because then we've got another 3 or 4 days of dry weather, I'd like to think that we're not going to get that much rain tonight. And if that's the case, then this soil will be exposed to water and sun. And if there's any chance for weeds to sprout, that might be a good time to let it kind of get some air, get some water, get some sunlight, and then cover it back up and let it sit. We don't have to plant this right away. We could let this go another couple of weeks. I mean, this is the first day of spring, March 20th. We could be out here planting lettuce right now, and that might not be a bad idea. I could run the planter through here. I could put in a few rows. I could put out some carrots. But I don't have to be in a big hurry. I mean, the idea of getting a jump on the season and getting an early crop, there's something to be said for that. But on the other hand, I think, to me, more importantly this year, is to see if some of the new methods and technologies that we're trying to employ are going to work. Because if they do, then we'll have something going forward. If I jump in here and throw a crop down and don't take advantage of all the opportunity to put the plastic back and let the weed seeds that might germinate as a result of being exposed to the sun and the water get smothered out again, might miss an opportunity. I'd rather not miss that opportunity. So for the sake of being a couple weeks, maybe even a week later on planting things, I think we're going to cover it back up, but we're going to let it rain first. Just in case you were wondering how we held the plastic down, we bought a case of these sandbags from Uline and filled them with lime dust that we keep on the farm for a lot of different projects, and use those as weights around the edges, and then in the middle where the two pieces seam together. It worked out great. I mean, it held it down all year long. We didn't have a single piece blow up or blow away, and with the exception of a couple spots out here where it looks like a deer has maybe run across and stepped through the plastic. With that, the exception of that, it has held up remarkably well and seems like it folded back without ripping or tearing, and overall I'm very, very pleased. You know, one of the things I want to do is get out here and turn this wheat under and use my new BCS and try and do some medium tillage to get it under so that it begins to deteriorate and become a part of the structure of the soil, because planting is coming up in just a few weeks. But you can tell that the ground, although it's starting to dry out in some places, it's still too moist in other places and just is not in good condition to be running any kind of equipment over it. And you know, really there's another reason why I don't want to go ahead and plant something now. I'm not going to plant anything until I lay out my beds. So that would mean I'd have to get all this plastic completely off, move it to the side, get my strings out, my tape out, measure everything, lay my beds off. If I'm going to amend the beds with any compost or anything else, I'm going to have to do all of that. And, you know, it's getting late in the day. It's late enough that I don't think that's a project that I can take on now and complete before dark. So, you know, that's another factor. I mean, you have to do a lot of things on a farm, not because you want to do them or because you'd like to do them, but because the weather or the sunlight interferes with your ability to get things done. So, you know, there are a lot of things to do here. Today we got several things done. We did our soil samples, we took them up and dropped them off. We refilled the boxes with compost. We worked in the greenhouse and got a lot of things set and ready to go. And, you know, even on any race, getting ready and get set, the first two things you have to do before you go. Well, the sun's starting to go down. You can see the sky behind me is starting to get a little grayer. There's some clouds moving in. I know there'll be some rain here this evening. The wind's kicked up. You might even be able to hear it on here. I'm not sure. But, you know, this is the first day of spring, and it's an important day to be outside and give thanks for all the blessings that life has to offer, and to be witness to the rebirth of the earth and the plants and the birds and the rebirth of the farm for the season. It's just such a wonderful day to be outside. Even though I'm only posting video usually once a week on Fridays, I wanted to take time to spend this special day with you and have you join me as we went around the farm and got a few things done. I really appreciate everything that you do by watching. I know we don't have a lot of subscribers yet. I know there are a lot of more popular channels out there, and there are probably things that other people are doing that make them more popular. So I invite you to please give me your comments, constructive criticism, what you like about what I'm doing, what you don't like. If it's too long, if I talk too much, if I don't have enough music, if I have too much music, if I don't talk enough, whatever you want to say is fine, because I actually want you to come and join me here at the farm and share in the blessings of this life that God has given to us. And I want to do that through this medium if possible. And I hope that you'll find something here of value and of interest and entertaining. And I hope you'll share it with other people. And if you haven't done so yet, please hit the little subscribe button. Subscribe to our channel now. Hit the little bell so you'll be notified when new content posts. And by all means, share any of our videos with any of your friends and ask them to join us in this remarkable life that we have here at the farm. We're easy to find. www.steepleviewfarm.net. More about us there, and you're always welcome to come visit. We hope to see you here.